Hello beautiful people, and in today's video I want to share with you the story of how I lost 33 pounds. So as I was sitting editing the video, I realized that from my very heaviest, maybe 65 kilograms down to maybe 49 kilograms, that could even be 34, 35 pounds of weight loss. I've lost somewhere in that region. I didn't really have a scale at my heaviest. I didn't really weigh myself. It wasn't something I wanted to know. I didn't want to know my heaviest weight. So I'm going to say I lost in the range of 33 to 35 pounds. Now, I didn't lose all the weight all at once. And like any person, my weight has fluctuated throughout the years. But I'm going to share from my heaviest, and I was the heaviest at around 19 years of age, 18, 19, to my lightest, how I lost that weight. And then from my very lightest weight, I have obviously gone up a little bit. That was very lean, maybe even too lean. And so I now hover around 52 kilograms, give or take. I have gone up and down and up and down. But my weight is pretty stable and it has never really gone over 55. At one point it hit 56 recently, in my sort of last 10, 20 years. So I have maintained a pretty stable, good weight throughout my adult life. And so I'm going to share all of that in this video. When I was a teenager, I started to gain what people called puppy fat. And so at 16, you can see in my ID photograph here, I was starting to gain the weight. And then by the age of 18, I went to England. I followed a boy overseas to England, and he kicked me out, and I had to go and find my own place, and I had to be all independent. I was fresh out of high school, and it was a very emotional time. And so I started to emotionally eat at that point in my life. When I arrived in England, I was probably, I'm guessing, around 55 kilograms. When I got home, I think I was around 64 kilograms. I didn't really weigh myself every day. I remember my mom had an old bathroom scale. It was one of the ones with the needle. And so it was only ever in my mom's bathroom that I would weigh myself. It wasn't something I did every day. So a lot of the weight that I speak about back then, it is a guess. Maybe I topped 65 at my heaviest around that time. I came home from England, back to South Africa, miserable, but then started to heal with the love of my family. And at that point, my mom, who is Greek, and my stepfather and brother had decided that they were going to immigrate to Greece. And so I followed them. So we all went to Greece. I arrived in Greece at that heavier weight of mine. I was still quite chubby. And when we were in Greece, walking, we didn't have our own transport. You catch public transport in Greece, taxis and buses. Walking every day, I found that the weight started to drop off almost by magic. It wasn't by magic, but we were busy. I wasn't just sitting around at home eating. Also, it wasn't like in England where I was feeling very emotional, very maybe bored, maybe sorry for myself. And I could just go to the grocery store and buy cookie dough and things like that they had in England, which we never had in South Africa. So in Greece, I wasn't sitting around emotionally eating. I was eating very normally, but there was a lot of walking. And then as the weight came off, I realized that, hold on, I can lose the weight. I'm not destined to be a chubby girl, because from sort of 16 to 18 in England, I was neither big nor small, but I got bigger and bigger. And I just thought, well, maybe I'm destined to be on the chubbier side, and that's my lot. My two aunts, my paternal aunt and my maternal aunt, were both weightier women. And so I thought maybe it's just how I'm meant to be. But as the weight started to come off in Greece, I realized also that if I just portion controlled, if I just ate to just feel full and no more, I didn't have to eat excessively, I didn't have to stuff myself, I could lose a bit more weight, and the weight sort of came off. Again, I wasn't weighing myself every day. And in Greece, I then had a boyfriend, and then I moved in with him, and we were busy and we were selling stuff, and life was good, and I was young. And so my weight probably hovered and stabilized again around, I'm guessing now, 55 kilograms, somewhere there. So from my heaviest in England, I probably dropped about 9 to 10 kilograms. And then in Greece, like I say, I'm guessing around 55. Then my weight also fluctuated like everyone's does. And there was a few troubled moments in Greece. My partner, actually, he was Serbian and he was an immigrant illegally, and they caught him, put him in jail, and it was a very stressful time. And I did find I lost quite a bit of weight during that time. And so I do have photographs of when I came back to South Africa to see my family. I looked quite what I would consider slim, skinnier. So my weight did drop off, and I just walking, being busy. I wasn't actively trying to lose weight, but I was happy to be losing the weight. Let's put it that way. So I didn't try and stuff myself either. And then life carried on, and then I came back to South Africa, and then eventually met my husband-to-be, and then I fell pregnant. And all along that time, my weight was in the mid to early 50s, 52, 53, somewhere there or thereabouts. With my pregnancy, I gained a lot of weight. I gained 16 kilograms. The obstetrician said, wow, that is quite a lot of weight. But because I had started off my pregnancy at a low weight, I think 52 kilograms, can't remember, maybe 53, he said, I could afford to pile on the weight. But I remember when I was pregnant with my son, I thought, now is the time. If I ever want to indulge in every treat and every meal and just eat to satiety, now is the time. And I knew I wasn't eating for two, but I just thought, just relax and enjoy, which I did. And the weight came on, but I lost it very quickly again after that. I had my son. Luckily, I got into breastfeeding, into a lovely rhythm. It was like one of the things that I did well. I did struggle with postpartum depression after I gave birth, but the breastfeeding was the thing that I think really got me through it. Once I'd worked through the initial awkwardness and the cracked nipples and the bleed, you guys know all about that. My son and I bonded, and it was a wonderful time, but it also helped me lose weight. It shrunk everything back in. I remember, I'll never forget, Jada Pinkett Smith had said on an Oprah interview, she lost all the weight through breastfeeding. She said, it just sucks you right back in. And that held true for me. That's exactly what happened for me. My breasts were big, my waist got skinny, and it was almost like every calorie I ate just went into making milk. So I could even eat quite a lot during that time. I remember when I was breastfeeding, there was a period of time where I ate nothing but toasted, you guessed it, toasted chicken mayonnaise sandwiches every day for lunch, probably for a month or two. I can't remember. I used to send our cleaning lady just right across the road. There was a restaurant there, like a takeaway place that did the best toasted chicken mayonnaise. And I had that every day for lunch. So, but I was like a beanpole right back then. And then I stopped breastfeeding, and I remember being so worried, thinking, oh, I'm going to pile on the weight. And I did. I gained 1 or 2 kgs, nothing too dramatic. But as my son got older and I returned to myself and felt more like myself, and without the new mom anxiety, I then started to look for what can I do, what physical activity can I do, and I entered my very first bodybuilding competition. I hired a personal trainer, and so what I did back then was I was untrained. I had no muscle tone or muscle mass really to speak of. I was just slim. And I hired a personal trainer with the goal of building some muscle, and I followed what I call the gym diet. It's lean proteins, pretty clean carbs, clean eating, mostly vegetables, handful of healthy nuts. You know the drill. I've spoken about this kind of eating a million times on this channel. And I wasn't restricting in any way other than just following the clean eating and training. I lost the weight for that first competition. Looking back, I think I got too lean. I remember being terrified that anything should or would wobble on stage. And so I stuck to the diet. I was very, it wasn't a chore though. It wasn't a chore. I was doing it with this wonderful goal in sight. And so I never felt deprived. I never lost my period either. But I just remember thinking, I just have to be on point. When I get on that stage, nothing can wobble. And I achieved that. But looking back now with photographs, I think it's too lean. I seem to recall my weight dropping maybe a bit too low, like I think 49 was the lowest it ever got, which for me is probably too low. I think the weight I am now is very healthy for my body. I do carry more weight on my lower half. I've said it a million times before on this channel as well. My legs are where I store my fat. It is what it is. It's not my favorite way to store fat. I wish I stored a bit more in my chest. I had to have breast implants done, but because I am very flat-chested, especially after breastfeeding. But I got to my lowest weight during that prep for the first competition. And thereafter, I hovered at around 50, 51, and now I'm hovering somewhere around 52 kgs. So I look back at how I lost the weight, and the story is always going to be the same for everyone who loses weight. It doesn't matter what diet path you choose. At the end of the day, it does come down to calorie restriction or calorie balance. Calories in must be less than your calories going out in order to lose weight. When I was in England and then moved to Greece, so England was where I gained the weight, Greece was where I lost the majority of the weight. When I moved to Greece, I didn't follow a specific diet. I wasn't trying to diet, but I lost the weight by walking and portion control. And I think that that is something so achievable for almost every woman on the planet. You can walk often. It's pretty accessible for most people, unless, of course, you do have some sort of physical impairment that doesn't allow you to walk, in which case you can do other movements if you're allowed to. But the thing we can all control is our portion sizes. And if we have the self-control, we could control calories or count calories. And so it wasn't a big mystery how I lost the weight. What was lovely about being in Greece is that it kind of fell off naturally almost. Yes, I was portion controlling. I was aware that I was eating less. I was aware that I wasn't stuffing my face like I did in England. I mean, obviously I knew what I was doing, but it wasn't an effort. And so there is a way to lose weight without that like strain and effort, where simply you eat to the point just before you are full. Don't overstuff yourself, and every day go to bed feeling like you are not stuffed. That really is as simple as it can get, and then it can get very complicated. Like when I was prepping for the bodybuilding show, my first competition, and all the competitions after, you get a diet. They give you how many grams of protein you need in a day. Your trainer even will advise you eat so many cups of vegetables, you eat so many cups of rice. So you can make your weight loss as simple or as complicated as you want it to be, but it really doesn't have to be complicated. Now, I often do advise on this channel that you use a calorie counting app or food tracking app to track your food if you are stuck, if you're at a weight loss plateau and you don't know how to break it and you are feeling frustrated. That is a wonderful tool. But I know it's not for everyone, and I know it's not sustainable. Who wants to be counting calories and food tracking for the rest of your life? I know I don't. I do use it. I have used it from time to time. I use it successfully. It always works when I do it. I always lose the weight, because the minute you start adding in the foods and you see those calories rising up throughout the day, it makes you hyper aware of how many calories are in foods. But again, like I say, you don't need to do it forever. You only need to do it for a short space of time. But weight loss is always possible. I'm not saying it's always easy, but it is always possible. It does take discipline, and sometimes we don't have the bandwidth to put into that at this point in our lives. And I think that's where a lot of us get stuck. Sometimes, like when I was in England and so emotional, I had just newly come out of high school. I was taking a gap year. I left home to follow this guy overseas, thinking this is going to be like this great romance. And then almost within a week or two of me arriving there, he tells me I need to find my own place, kicks me out of his apartment. And it was shell-shocking for me. It was wonderful. I matured, I learned, but I emotionally ate. And at that point in my life, I would never, ever, ever have had the bandwidth to try and diet. And I didn't need to. I was 18. The little bit of extra weight I was carrying was cute. I don't think I looked bad at all, but it was heavy for me looking back. I mean, I remember I met another guy and we went to Paris for a weekend, and I climbed up the Eiffel Tower, and I was a little bit out of breath and a bit winded with the extra weight. So I didn't feel my best, but I remember never feeling unattractive. I mean, I was with this lovely guy and he thought I was great. And so the weight was never about being attractive or not attractive. It's how I like to feel. And where I am now, where my weight is now, I feel very happy. I feel pretty healthy. I can get up and go for a run. I can exercise. Ideally, I would like to be a little bit leaner just so you can see my abs again. But it's not always necessary in life. It really isn't that important. Having abs is not going to change your life. I know, because I had abs once before and my life didn't change. all it does is make you feel like, oh, I've got abs. And maybe other people come and ask you how you did it, and you get that kind of attention. But it's not attention that you want, let's be honest. I mean, it's superficial attention. Weight loss is not a mystery, but I know it can be a struggle. So please try and simplify it for yourself. That is the best advice. And a bit of movement and a bit of portion control. And really, I think that is the secret to success for most weight loss stories. Obviously, this is outside of the scope of actual medical reasons for gaining weight, such as what Amy Schumer is going through now with Cushing's disease, something that I can't speak to. I'm not a doctor. But if you are relatively healthy and relatively normal, weight loss is within your grasp. And so I share my story to hopefully inspire you, hopefully give you some pointers, hopefully you've learned something, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. Hey, Yogi, what do you think? What does Yogi think? Hey, what does Yogi think? Bye. Bye.